Emily, you're late again. I'm starving. Get dinner ready. The voice rang out from the living room. I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the kitchen counter as I tried to steady myself. My mother-in-law was lying on the couch, her arms spread wide, like she owned the place. The living room was a mess, cushions thrown on the floor, blankets tangled up, and the coffee table cluttered with empty cups. It looked like a storm had swept through, but the real storm was sitting right there, glaring at me. That was the moment I realized I had reached my limit. I'm Emily, a career-driven woman with a husband, Samuel, who shares the same passion for work. We met at the office, quickly bonded over our love for what we do, and soon enough, we were married. Samuel and I had agreed early on that children weren't part of our plans. We wanted to focus on building our careers, achieving our dreams, and growing together as a team. We believed in equal partnership, housework was shared, and we supported each other in everything we did. Our life was smooth. Even though work kept us busy, we always made time for each other. Weekends were our time to relax, talk about our week, and plan for the future. But there was one aspect of our marriage that filled me with dread every year: the annual vacation with Samuel's parents. I had no problem with his father. In fact, he was a kind man, respectful of our choices and always supportive. But his mother, she was a different story. From the moment Samuel and I decided not to have children, she saw me as the enemy. It was as if my decision had personally offended her, and she never missed a chance to remind me. It all came to a head during one of our family meetings. Samuel had just explained to his parents that we wouldn't be having kids, and that our focus would remain on our careers. His father nodded, understanding that times had changed, and that people made different choices. But his mother, she was livid. "How could you marry a woman who doesn't want children?" she shrieked, her face turning red with fury. "I've been looking forward to grandchildren. What kind of woman focuses on her job instead of raising a family?" I sat there, stunned, as Samuel tried to defend me. "Mom, Emily and I have discussed this at length. We're happy with our decision." But she wasn't having any of it. Women are supposed to stay home and take care of the house. A career is nothing compared to raising a family. Samuel's father finally stepped in. "That's enough. Emily has a promising career, and it's her choice. Times are different now." His words only fueled her anger, and the argument spiraled out of control. Samuel had to physically step between them to prevent it from getting worse. After that day, my relationship with my mother-in-law was never the same. Every family gathering was tense, but the annual vacation was the worst. We went because Samuel believed in maintaining family connections, and I wanted to respect that. But every year, I found myself dreading it more and more. And this year was shaping up to be the worst one yet. The day of the trip started off on a sour note. When we arrived at the hotel, something was wrong with our reservation. Samuel and I had booked a room together, but when we went to check in, we were informed that my name was missing from the reservation. Only Samuel's name was on the booking, and it was for a single room. I turned to Samuel, confused. "This must be a mistake," I said, trying to stay calm. But before we could ask for clarification, my mother-in-law chimed in, her voice dripping with malice. "Oh, there's no mistake. I canceled your reservation, Emily." My heart dropped. "What?" "You're not family, Emily. This is a family vacation and you don't belong here," she said, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest, but I swallowed it down. "Fine," I said, my voice trembling. "If I'm not family, then I'll leave." I turned to walk away, but Samuel grabbed my hand. "No, you're not going anywhere," he said firmly. "If you leave, I'm leaving too." His words seemed to catch his mother off guard. "What? No, you can't leave. This trip was planned for all of us." Samuel shook his head. "Not if you're going to treat Emily like this. I won't stand for it." Even Samuel's father, who had been quiet up until this point, stood up. "I'm leaving too," he said, much to his wife's shock. "I can't enjoy this trip with all this negativity." For a moment, she was speechless. I almost felt sorry for her, but then her face twisted into anger. Fine, go, I don't need any of you, she shouted, storming off in the other direction. As we walked away, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I was done with her. I wasn't going to let her ruin any more of my life. The flight home was unexpectedly peaceful. Samuel, his father, and I sat together, laughing and enjoying each other's company. It was the first time in a long time that I felt at ease, but the peace didn't last long. A few days after we returned, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find my mother-in-law standing there, bags in hand. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my heart sinking. "I'm staying here for a while," she announced, brushing past me and setting her bags down in the living room. I stood there, frozen in shock. "What?" "I've left your father-in-law. I can't live with him anymore," she said, flopping down onto the couch as if she had every right to be there. I quickly called Samuel at work, trying to keep my voice steady. "You won't believe this," I said. "Your mother just showed up at the house. She's moved in." "What?" Samuel sounded just as shocked as I felt. "I'll call my dad and see what's going on." But when he tried to reach his father, there was no answer. We were stuck with her. For days, she took over the house, making snide comments about how I ran things. "This place is a mess because you work too much," she'd mutter, her eyes scanning the room as if she were judging every corner. I tried to ignore her, focusing on my own work and going about my day, but it was impossible to ignore the constant tension in the air. Samuel came home early one day, hoping to convince her to leave, but she refused. "I'm not going anywhere," she said defiantly. "This is my son's house, and I have every right to be here." We were stuck. She wasn't going to leave, and Samuel's father was still unreachable. Then, one evening, I came home to find the house in shambles. Drawers had been pulled out, their contents strewn across the floor. My mother-in-law was lounging on the couch, watching TV like nothing was wrong. "What happened here?" I asked, my voice rising with frustration. "Oh, I was hungry and looking for something to eat," she said nonchalantly, as if that explained the chaos. "That doesn't explain why the drawers are emptied out," I exclaimed, my patience wearing thin. But she just shrugged. "You didn't prepare lunch, so I had to look for something myself." That's when I noticed something else was missing: my credit card. My heart raced as I realized what had happened. I confronted her, but she denied everything, acting as if I was the one in the wrong. Samuel came home to the mess and immediately started arguing with his mother. "This has gone too far," I whispered to Samuel, pulling him aside. "She's stolen my credit card." Samuel sighed, rubbing his temples. "You're right. We can't let her get away with this." We decided to gather evidence, quietly documenting everything she did. A few days later, Samuel finally got through to his father, who had been traveling and was unaware of everything that had happened. When Samuel's father returned, we all sat down in the living room. My mother-in-law acted as if nothing was wrong, but her expression changed when her husband walked in. "What are you doing here?" she asked, clearly surprised to see him. "I came to give you this," he said, handing her a piece of paper. She unfolded it and gasped. "Divorce papers? What are you talking about?" "I've had enough of your behavior," he said calmly. "You've disrespected Emily for too long, and I can't tolerate it anymore. I want a divorce." She stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious." But he was. He explained everything, from her actions on the trip to her behavior at our house. Finally, she stood up fuming. "Fine, I'll sign them, but I'm taking Samuel with me." Samuel crossed his arms. "No, Mom. I'm staying here with Emily. Your behavior has gone too far." Her face twisted in anger as she grabbed a pen and scrawled her name on the papers. "You'll regret this," she snapped, shoving the papers back at him. But as she turned to leave, I spoke up. "There's one more thing." I pulled out my laptop and opened a video I had taken of her shopping with my stolen credit card. Her eyes widened as I zoomed in on the card in her hand. "That's not yours, is it?" I asked. She stammered, trying to deny it, but it was too late. We had all the evidence we needed. "I'll be pressing charges," I said calmly. Her face drained of color as she realized the seriousness of the situation. She stormed out of the house without another word. In the end, we filed for damages, and my mother-in-law moved in with her estranged sister. Samuel's father stayed with us, helping around the house and even offering advice on our careers. Life finally returned to normal, and the peace we had been longing for settled back into our home. The unwelcome visitor was gone for good.